Welcome to the Good Ride, where we've been gear whoring semi-responsibly for over 10 years now. This is a comparison of the 2021 Union line. Union's one of my favorite binding companies out there for a couple reasons. One, they're pretty reliable. They're really well made. Two, they're very responsive. But three, they have incredible stance width and boot to binding adjustability that helps me dial out any binding I have to any board I'm trying. So I love that versatility. In this review, I'll be doing a comparison of the Union Contact Pro, the Union Strata, the Union Falcor, little ghost in-betweener here, the Force, which I don't have with me, but I'll be talking about and referencing against these, the Union Atlas, and the Atlas FC. Let's start off with weight. They're all very light. There's a little bit of a difference though. For example, these are 1.8 pounds with the discs in and the screws in. This is all with discs and screws in. These are 2 pounds, even. This is 1.8. These are the lightest in the line that I've tried. The Force, I'm guessing, is about 2 pounds too, or 2.2 pounds, probably about the same as the Atlas, which is 2.2 pounds. A little heavier than the other ones. And this one's 2 pounds, so about the same as the Strata. Now, in terms of Highback Flex, this is kind of surprising. The Atlas has by far the softest Highback Flex. So if you're like me and you have big, or shall we say even featured calves, I don't think they're massive, they're not like Popeye calves, but they really like highbacks like this that don't bite into your calves. Probably from there, it's the Contact Pro that has a good bit of twist and a little bit of give, but it looks stiffer. I mean, it's stiffer than it looks. Then probably from there, the Strata and the Falcor are very similar. Not much give going back here, but a little bit of twist, and I really like that. This has about the same, maybe a little more twist and a little more give, but it felt more responsive though. So that's something interesting. And then this is just unbendable, untwistable, just so stiff. I can't even, I'm afraid I'm gonna tear my rotator cuff or tear my shoulder just trying to get this to twist. So now in terms of flex underfoot and buttering, the Falcor, the Strata, and the Contact Pro do a much better job twisting and bending the board than the Force, the Atlas, and the Atlas FC. You can kind of see a difference between these two discs right here and just how much more disc is touching the board. The rest of these bindings are channeled out, so there's not much contact. It's just kind of EVA foam or kind of a rubbery type of foam. But you can see, and the Force is like this too. The Force has kind of the EVA foam of the old Atlas 2020. So you definitely have more twist, more flexibility, more butterability with these bindings. Of all of them though, the Contact Pro is the best because of that softer EVA foam. It really allows the board to butter just a little bit better than the Falcor and the Strata with their denser foam. Then I would say the Force is probably the easiest of the all mountains because it has that soft EVA foam. It allows the board to twist and bend a little easier. Then it's the Atlas, this new rubbery type of bottom really dampens up the ride though, but it eliminates the contact, it makes the contact more and makes the board feel stiffer underfoot. That's good for some and bad for others. If you like butterability, it's these. If you like that stiff, responsive feel, if you want your board to feel stiffer, then it's, the Force first, then the Atlas is a little better, and the Atlas FC with its just ultra stiff base plate will do an even better job. In terms of response and turn initiation, Union has very responsive bindings. They kind of sit on the more responsive side of the spectrum in comparison to the rest of the industry. And to start off with, you have the Union Contact Pro here. This little guy is more responsive than it looks. It's got that new ankle strap that really helps even out the edge-to-edge transitioning. And it's the most smooth out of the line, but still can power more board than you would think. And that's kind of surprising. It's kind of about middle if you compare it to most bindings out there in the industry. It's about medium in terms of response. Then this kind of gets into that medium fast response area with the Strata. You definitely have more response here and than the Contact Pro, but it's not quite there with the Falcor. The Falcor definitely steps it up response-wise, and depending on the kind of board you have, it could be a little more or a little less responsive than the new Atlas. And the new Atlas felt a little less responsive than last year's Atlas, but not by much. And sitting in between here, kind of your ghost binding, the Force, I love that they added the old 2020 Atlas ankle strap to the Force, or something very close to it. So now that's even more responsive than it was before, even though the base plate is similar, the high back is similar, and all that jazz. But the Force, I think, is the same, about the same as the Atlas, because it has that softer foam, so it initiates a turn a little faster, just like the old Atlas did against this new Atlas. The old Atlas initiated a turn a little faster, but once both bindings were set, once the turn was initiated, the response was similar. And then you have just, like, for me personally, too much response. This is just like too responsive. It's too stiff and too responsive. But if you're into that, you know, we're all different here as snowboarders. We all have things that tickle our taint differently, and this is the most responsive. If you have a board that's difficult to turn, then this is your boy here. Now, in terms of shock absorption and dampness, it's very interesting. The mini discs are very shock absorbent and damp, but because of that contact with the mini disc, they give a different feel, more twist, more butterability like we talked about, but they still have pretty good dampness. And the Contact Pro has this like kind of softer EVA foam that's really good at like slower speed shock absorption and, you know, like small ollies or little stuff like that. I think that does just a little bit better. But then getting up into higher speed stuff and just dampening the overall ride, reducing that chatter from coming up through into your joints, these do better with this kind of like, I think they call it vapor light, but basically it's kind of like a rubbery bottom, and it really dampens up the ride. And I would say these are both about the same in terms of dampness. Now that the Falcor, as of 2020, I believe, was updated with this kind of more rubbery-like material there, I think this feels a little, just a touch softer and a touch better at slow speed shock absorption than the Strata, but they're close. Then from there, you're getting into kind of like the All Mountain series and the full-size disc series. And talking about the Force, it has a full-size disc like this, but it has this kind of like softer EVA foam from the Contact Pro. So it does a pretty good job at slow speed shock absorption, but the Atlas definitely does better at absorbing that, like that uneven snow chatter. And trying the old Atlas with the same kind of EVA foam as the old Force and comparing it to the new Atlas, it was amazing how much more damp the new Atlas is, and to a lesser extent the Atlas FC. I was a little mistaken in my comparison between the Atlas and the Atlas FC. The Atlas is definitely damper, just that less, you know, less responsive, less stiff material helped absorb chatter better overall. And comparing these two on the same day, I was like, ooh, yeah, okay. This doesn't quite have as much shock absorption as the good old Atlas. And all these three bindings with that full-size disc compared to a mini disc, it really stiffens the board underfoot too, and that helps the board become more damp. So now you have this full-size disc stiffening up the board. Before it was kind of a tie. this is definitely more damp now than these. Because you have the full-size disc, stiffens the board, and then this dense rubber on the bottom that dampens it too. When it comes to support, holding your boot in place, almost all of Union's bindings now do a great job at ankle support. You have the same ankle strap here that's nice and soft in the Atlas and the Atlas FC, and it's not too soft. This feels a little softer than the Atlas FC strap, but not by much, and it just could be the strap because these are pre-production models, but they have all of them have lots of surface area, you can see, and these have a really good support but no real bite. They really mold well with the forward flex of your boot. And then you have another kind of a big surface area here. Both are pretty big in terms of surface area. There's a little more pre-curve going on with these, and I like that better than these, but once they're on, they really mold around a boot well. These are stiffened up this year from last year, but about the same surface area and about the same feel, so really cool. And then you have kind of what was on the Strata last year is now on the Contact Pro, and this is even softer, but still very supportive and very well done. I think the old Falcor's ankle strap was a little more supportive and responsive from 2020 than the 2021, but it's still pretty close, and it kind of matches more with the Freestyle line now. Ratchets, Union makes great ratchets. They had issues years and years and years ago where sometimes they were sticky, but now they're so smooth on and off. One thing I did notice though is that all these ratchets ladders this year are thinner. Just like the old ones better, but these aren't bad at all, and they're still some of the best ratchet systems in the industry. In terms of adjustability, all of Union's bindings do a really good job of dialing out your boot in the binding so it sits centered, and therefore you can turn the discs sideways and center them on board. But my two favorites are the Force and the Atlas because they have an adjustable toe ramp, an adjustable heel cup, and then they also have, I don't know if you can see here, but they have high back rotation as well. So basically you can just get this binding to fit perfectly on your board and on your boot, and that's amazing. From there, it's the Atlas FC. It has everything that the Atlas has except high back rotation, and if you're somebody like me with even featured calves, you're not going to like this because it bites hard and you have to pull the heel loop out to rotate the high back, and even when I did that, it bit into my calf pretty hard. Then you have the Falcor, and the Falcor does not have high back rotation either, like the Atlas FC, and you'll have to pull the heel loop out, but at least there's some twist here so it doesn't bite into your calves as much if you choose not to rotate your high backs. It does not have an adjustable gas pedal, so you can't pull this out, but it does have that adjustable heel loop, and I found that it works with most boots, and therefore then you can turn the discs sideways. And with mini discs, you're going, instead of one, here's an insert pack, here's an insert pack, and here's an insert pack, you're just going like this with the two inserts, and so it still slides almost as well as a full-size disc, and that's really cool. This is almost as adjustable as the Atlas, the Strata, because it does have rotating high backs. You can rotate it a little bit, and it doesn't poke out anymore and cause wear and tear on your boot because they only put two holes here, and you can adjust with the heel loop if you want to. So very adjustable there, just missing the gas, the adjustable gas pedal. Same with the Contact Pro as the Strata. Very adjustable bindings. So overall, it really comes down to personal preference and what you enjoy, what tickles your taint the most. So if you're, more freestyle, mountain freestyle oriented, this Contact Pro will do you. If you want something kind of in between that freestyle and all mountain kind of free ride, alternative free ride world, this can work with a wide variety of boards, and it's one of our most recommended bindings out there. This Falcor is for those who want them like the most response you can get while still not sacrificing butterability. And then this is kind of just, you know, this will probably be one of my daily drivers next year. These are going to be the two that I own. Personally, I just love these because they fit with such a wide variety of boards, and it's just all like, it's all business down below on the base plate and all party in the high back, just soft comfort high back. It's a rare binding out there in the industry to have that soft of a high back with such a responsive base plate, and I love that, especially with bigger calves. This is the big calf buddy. And then this is just for that small amount of people who just want just the most expensive shit they can get. They want the most response. They want very light, powerful, responsive binding. That could be the call. But for me, these are usually the ones I'm going to be recommending the most. And then you have the Force that I always forget because it's the Ghost Force. It's a great, if you can't afford the Atlas, you want something a little less expensive, but still very responsive and very adjustable, then there you go.